Jérôme Napoléon Bonaparte was the youngest brother of Napoleon I and reigned as Jérôme I, King of Westphalia, between 1807 and 1813. From 1816 onward, he bore the title of Prince of Montfort. After 1848, when his nephew, Louis Napoleon, became president of the French Second Republic, he served in several official roles, including Marshal of France from 1850 onward, and President of the Senate in 1852. Early life. Jérôme was born Girolamo Bonaparte in Ajaccio, Corsica, the eighth and last surviving child, fifth surviving son, of Carlo Bonaparte and Letizia Remolino. He was a younger brother of his siblings, Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte, Lucien Bonaparte, Eliza Bonaparte, Louis Bonaparte, Pauline Bonaparte and Caroline Bonaparte. He studied at the Catholic College of Juilly, and then served with the French Navy before going to the United States. On Christmas Eve, the 24th of December 1803, 19-year-old Jérôme married Elizabeth Patterson, 18-year-old daughter of prosperous shipowner and merchant William Patterson, in Baltimore. Napoleon was unable to convince Pope Pius VII in Rome to annul their marriage, and so annulled the marriage himself, as a matter of state. Elizabeth was pregnant with a son at the time, and was on her way to Europe with the elder Jérôme. When they landed in neutral Portugal, Jérôme set off overland to Italy to attempt to convince his brother to recognize the marriage. Elizabeth then attempted to land in Amsterdam, hoping to travel to within the borders of France in order for her and Jérôme's baby son to be born on French soil. But Emperor Napoleon I issued orders barring the ship from entering the harbour. Being with child, Elizabeth went on to England where Jérôme Napoléon Bonaparte was born at 95 Camberwell Grove, Camberwell, London, England. Emperor Napoleon instituted Roman Catholic and later French state divorce proceedings only after the birth of the baby, Jérôme II. After considerable delay and internal struggle, Elizabeth was later declared divorced from Jérôme by a special decree and act of the state legislature of the General Assembly of Maryland in 1815. King of Westphalia. Napoleon made his brother King of Westphalia, the short-lived realm created by Napoleon from the several states and principalities in northwestern Germany. It was later reorganized by Napoleon into the Confederation of the Rhine, and then after his defeat, the Napoleonic realm of Westphalia had its capital in Kassel. Jérôme was married, as arranged by Napoleon, to HRH Princess Katharina of Württemberg, the daughter of Frederick I, King of Württemberg. A marriage to a German princess intended to boost the dynastic standing of the young French king. When Jérôme and Katharina arrived in Kassel, they found the palaces in a plundered state. As such, they placed orders for an array of stately furniture and expensive silverware with leading Parisian manufacturers. Local artisans, eager for commissions, oriented themselves with these French models. The king also intended to refurbish his capital architecturally. The court theatre ranks among the small number of projects realized. Jérôme had it designed by Leo von Klenze and constructed next to the summer residence, previously known as Wilhelmshöhe. It was changed to Napoleon's Höhe to emphasize his rank as a ruler, and pander to his own ego. Jérôme commissioned grandiose state portraits of himself and his spouse, Queen Katharina. Other paintings were to celebrate his military exploits, with many of France's most prominent painters taken into his employ. As a model state, the Kingdom of Westphalia was expected by Napoleon to serve as an example for the other German states. It received the first constitution and parliament to be found on German soil. Jérôme imported the empire style from Paris, bestowing the new state with a modern, representative appearance. The small kingdom thus received more attention since the famous Treaty of Westphalia, which ended the 30 Years' War 150 years earlier in 1648. Thanks to these efforts by King Jerome, Kassel celebrated an enormous cultural upturn. However, Jerome's expensive habits earned him the contempt of Napoleon. His court incurred expenses comparable to Napoleon's court, and Napoleon refused to support Jérôme financially. In 1812, Jérôme was given command of a corps in the Grande Armée Écoutée, marching towards Minsk. Insisting on traveling in state, Napoleon reprimanded Jérôme, ordering him to leave his court and luxurious trappings behind. After the Battle of Mir, Jérôme occupied Mir Castle. In pique of Napoleon's order, Jérôme returned with his entire court and train to Westphalia. After the defeat in Russia, the following winter, Jérôme petitioned Napoleon to allow his wife to come to Paris, fearing the advance of the Allied armies. On the second attempt, Napoleon granted permission. Jérôme briefly re-entered the army in 1813, when his kingdom was being threatened from the east by the advancing Allied Prussian and Russian armies. He led a small force to challenge their invasion. Following a clash with an enemy detachment, he made camp with his army, hoping for reinforcements from the French army in the west. However, before reinforcements arrived, the main Allied force captured the capital Kassel. The Kingdom of Westphalia was declared dissolved and Jérôme's kingship ended. He then fled to join his wife, the former queen, in France. The 100 Days. During the 100 Days, Napoleon placed Jérôme in command of the 6th Division of the 2nd Corps under General Honoré Charles Ray. At Waterloo, Jérôme's division was to make an initial attack on Hougoumont. It is said that Napoleon wished to draw in Lord Wellington's reserves. Whatever the intent, Jérôme was allowed to enlarge the assault such that his division became completely engaged, attempting to take Hougoumont to the exclusion of any other possible deployment, without significantly weakening Wellington's centre. Later years. Although Catherine was aware of Jérôme's womanizing and affairs, she remained true to her husband. They had a son, Napoleon Joseph Charles Paul Bonaparte, also known as Prince Napoleon or Plon. Their second child, a daughter, Princess Mathilde Bonaparte, was a prominent hostess during and after the Second French Empire of Napoleon III. After the dissolution of his kingdom, Jérôme was given the title of Prince of Montfort by his father-in-law, King Frederick I of Württemberg, in July 1816. Previously, in 1814, the king had forced Jérôme and his wife to leave the country. During their exile, they visited the United States. Jérôme later returned to France and joined Napoleon during an attempt to restore the empire during the 100 Days. Later, Jérôme moved to Italy, where he married his third wife, Giustina Peccari Suarez. She was the widow of an Italian Marquis, Luigi Bartolini Baldelli. In 1848, his nephew, Prince Louis Napoleon, became president of the Second French Republic. Jérôme was made governor of Les Invalides in Paris, which was the burial place of Napoleon I. When Louis Napoleon became emperor as Napoleon III, Jérôme was recognized as the heir presumptive to the re-established imperial throne until the birth of Napoleon Eugene, Prince Imperial. Jérôme was named a Marshal of France in 1850, served as President of the Senate in 1852, and received the title of Prince Français. Jérôme Bonaparte died on 24 June 1860, at Villegenais, France. He is buried in Les Invalides. His grandson, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, served as United States Secretary of the Navy and United States Attorney General in President Theodore Roosevelt's administration, 1901 to 1909. In 1908, he established a Bureau of Investigation within the 38-year-old Department of Justice. The Bureau grew under Director J. Edgar Hoover and was renamed the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 1935. Another grandson was Jérôme Napoleon Bonaparte II. In the early 1850s, he graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point, was commissioned an officer in the United States Army, and served with the mounted rifles in Texas on the American southwestern frontier. He eventually resigned his commission and joined the forces of his cousin, the Emperor Napoleon III in his Second French Empire. Among Jérôme Bonaparte's illegitimate children was Baroness Jenny von Gussedit, born as Jerome Katharina Rabe von Pappenheim. She became the grandmother of the German socialist and feminist writer Lily Brown. In fiction and popular culture, the 1923 German comedy film The Little Napoleon is loosely based around his life. He is played by Paul Heidemann. In the Hornblower television series, he was portrayed by British actor David Birkin. The last episode introduces Jérôme and Elizabeth. Adrift in an open boat, they are picked up by Captain Hornblower's ship. Jérôme poses as a harmless Swiss citizen, but Hornblower identifies him. After many diplomatic maneuvers, the British government decides that Jérôme is of no political importance after all, and he is allowed to return to France while Elizabeth put aboard a passing American ship. Jérôme and Betsy's marriage is portrayed in the historical novel The Ambitious Madame Bonaparte by Ruth Hult Chatelain, published in 2013. Jérôme may have been a source of inspiration for the character of Prince Hans, the primary antagonist of Disney's 2013 movie musical Frozen. Family. Jérôme Napoléon Bonaparte, Jérôme Napoleon Bonaparte to Louise Eugénie Bonaparte, Jérôme Napoleon Charles Bonaparte, Charles Joseph Bonaparte, Jérôme Napoleon Charles Bonaparte. Matilda Bonaparte, married a Natalie Dimidoff, first Prince of San Donato. Napoleon Joseph Bonaparte, married Princess Clotilde of Savoy. Napoleon Victor Bonaparte, married Princess Clementine of Belgium. Clotilde Bonaparte, married Serge de Witt. Louis Bonaparte, married Alix de Forster. Charles Bonaparte, married Princess Beatrice of Bourbon. Two Cecilies. Jean-Françoise Vallichoni, Caroline Napoleon Bonaparte, Jean-Christophe Napoleon Bonaparte, Sophie Catherine Bonaparte, Catherine Bonaparte, married Marquis Nicolas di San Germano, Jean-Jules Laura Bonaparte, married Jean-Claude Leconte. Jérôme Xavier Bonaparte, Napoleon Louis Joseph Jérôme Bonaparte, Maria Letizia Bonaparte, married Amadeo, 1st Duke of Aosta. Titles, styles and arms. Titles and styles. The 15th of November 1784, circa 1795. Nobile Girolamo Buonaparte, circa 1795 to 1806. Jérôme Bonaparte, 1806 to 8 July 1807. Jérôme Napoleon, French prince. The 8th of July 1807 to 26 October 1813. His Majesty the King of Westphalia, the 31st of July 1816 to 2 December 1852. Jérôme Napoleon, Prince of Montfort, the 2nd of December 1852 to 18 June 1860. Jérôme Napoleon, French Prince, Prince of Montfort. Full title: His Majesty Jérôme I, by the grace of God and by the Constitution, King of Westphalia. Ancestry.